Welcome to a special E3 edition of the gameplay today. I'm not Jeff Cork, nor am I Leo Vader. I'm Kyle Hilliard, and Suriel Vazquez is here with me.
Hi, Kyle. I wouldn't want you to be anyone else.
Oh, thank you. What is this? This game's already out, and we've played it a bunch. Why are we looking at it again?
This is the new expansion to For Honor that's hitting later this year. It's called Marching Fire, I believe, and so with it, the big attraction here is a new mode called Breach, which is sort of Kyle, have you ever played Overwatch?
Yes.
Okay, so it's sort of like the payload mode, basically, where so here we have like a giant ballista or a battering ram, and so our goal is to escort it through this castle and break through. It's actually pretty cool because it basically, in For Honor, sort of your team-based modes are usually either deathmatch or you run around and do sort of control point stuff. And here, it's sort of the action is a little more focused. So right now, as you can see, I'm sort of just running around trying to kill these soldiers. Well, right now I'm trying to not die. But so
aren't we all, Suriel?
Yeah.
I'm adding good commentary.
Yeah. Well, I mean, usually you're not trying to actively not die. You're just kind of expecting. That's sort of the assumption. It's not really something you actively do. But so basically, the minion soldiers in For Honor will sort of surround the battering ram, and so your job is to clear it. But there's also an enemy team, of course, and so they're gonna, this guy seems to know what he's doing with his character. By the way, there's also four new character classes because there's a new faction based on China. Because it used to be that you have sort of Vikings, you have Norse knights, and then the samurai, basically. And so this is sort of a more Chinese-oriented faction. But this guy really has my number early on. But he runs away because I'm in a healing circle. But anyway, so basically we want to get this ballista, or I keep calling it a ballista, battering ram to that gate, so it'll destroy the gate and we can move on to the next point. But of course, if we're dead, we can't kill the minions around it. So I died.
Okay, so this is a mode that's coming later?
Yes, it'll October 16th is the release date. So basically, as you can see, there's attackers and defenders. So the blue team wants to stop us from moving the battering ram, and we have a limited number of lives to do it. So if we lose all of our lives, that's it. We lose. I don't know. I don't remember who wins if the timer expires, but basically, we have a limited number of tries. So every revive is super important here. And in For Honor, you can execute people to prevent them from being revived. So that stuff becomes a lot more important. And the other thing is because you're basically fighting around this battering ram most of the time. I think that revival mechanic becomes a little more prominent, both because everyone's sort of around each other all the time and because you have a limited number of lives. But so the class that I'm using, I think it's called the Tiandi. He's sort of like I was pointed to him as sort of, hey, if you're rusty at For Honor, like I was, because I haven't played it in a while, this is sort of the basic class you want. But there's a longer ranged class, and there's a more sort of like nimble class, and I forget what the fourth one is, but they're basically, here's a huge new expansion for Honor to get back into it. So they have a mode that basically is supposed to get you back into For Honor if you've been away, which I think is pretty cool. Like Ubisoft has done a pretty good job of supporting their games long term, like more than most developers, honestly. Like Siege has done really well for them. For Honor, I think it got out of the gate a little rough. I mean, so did Siege, but they've done a really good job of supporting their games long term and sort of bringing people back in and growing their player base. Like For Honor is doing really well for them, so it makes sense for them to have this big expansion pack in place. And I'm kind of talking over the fact that I'm about to get my ass kicked here, so as to distract you. But I guess now calling it out, it kind of defeats that purpose.
Is this like a paid expansion?
Yes, it'll be a paid expansion. I don't have the price on me, but it's pretty substantial just because it is sort of $20 and there's a new mode. But I believe the mode is free.
So like the new classes and stuff.
That'll be tied in sort of like you can pay for them, or you have to sort of use the in-game currency to buy them. But I mean, over the course of the year, like For Honor's had quite a few changes. They've added classes, they've had seasons, they've switched to dedicated servers. One thing I'm reminded of is the PC version runs really well, which is what we've played here, which is why it's running so much better than the console version. But one thing to keep in mind is that just because there is this battering ram here, and I think we're about to breach the first gate here, doesn't mean that there aren't other parts of the map. So there's ballistas, like actual ballistas, and sort of bow and arrow sort of encampments that you can use to kill, the enemy player. I actually get killed by one of them at one point. But yes, so like right here, I'm trying to circumvent them from even coming near our battering ram by just sort of taking the fight to them here. And one of the things I do like about For Honor is that you can be a team player. I think I earned most of my points just by killing sort of the enemy fodder, because one of the people I was playing with basically said, "Oh yeah, I'm like a For Honor streamer. I play this game a lot." So I was like, all right, well maybe if he's on the opposing team, I'm gonna get my ass kicked. But sort of I was able to just hunker down and kill mobs for most of my time, which I think works for this mode as well, just because it is so team based. So right here we breached the first wall, and you can see here that we have another wall to breach. And so like right now I'm just clearing mobs is basically what I'm doing. This character doesn't seem particularly good at it, but I think characters with sort of more cleaving attacks I think would work better. And of course you can play this mode with any other class. I think most of us wanted to play the new classes, but yeah. So there are also these little healing wells around the map. Early on I mentioned one, but they basically act as a way, because there aren't really bases or any places for like the attacking team to really retreat to. Those work as sort of like, hey, okay, you've killed the enemy team, you need to recover, go find this one spot and and go heal up. But I found the emphasis on revives to be fairly different, because most of the time sort of the instinct when you die is like, all right, Call of Duty sort of like try to get back into the fight as long as possible. But because you have that limited number of lives, at least on the attacking team, you really want to make sure you're kind of looking at the map and thinking like, all right, what are my chances of getting revived here versus like just trying to get back in the fight more quickly. But yeah, right here I'm paying attention to that meter, and there's capture points that sort of cede control of the healing points a little bit. I'm trying to revive this guy. I don't get away with it. But I think that's pretty much all we've got to say about the mode. It's pretty self-explanatory, but I did want to get this gameplay out there because I think it is a promising new mode for Honor, and I think if you have not played For Honor in a while, I think you might want to go take a second look at it. I think it is a super unique game in terms of the combat system. I don't think there's a game quite like it in terms of even third or any kind of combat really, and I do really like the way the combat flows. And it's just as much as it is like a new mode, I think it is a reminder of like, hey, For Honor's pretty cool, and that if you like multiplayer brawlers, you should give it a shot.
Cool. Well, we're gonna let the video run out the end of the match, but thanks, Suriel, for showing this thing off.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Kyle.
They are attacking the ram! You're dead to the ram now!